Welcome to the Jim Master Show Live, entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series, beaming all around the world from the East Coast of the United States, the New York tri-state area. And our next guest is a legend in many different avenues of broadcast and print and so much more. Frank DeCaro is here for this exclusive conversation. He's a renowned and beloved journalist, actor, comedian, pop culture pundit, author, and so much more. And you may remember him on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Yes, crazy movie critic and so much more. He was hilarious and a legend, of course, on that as well. But he's had his own show on satellite radio for many, many years. And of course, that is aptly named The Frank DeCaro Show. You may remember that as well. I love that. We dug that up because it was just so perfect. It just suits his fabulous, bubbly personality. In addition to all of that, and that's just really the short list, folks, of his extraordinary career and all the amazing things that he has done and continues to do. This may remind you of a few things. As I mentioned, as a writer and pop culture pundit and actor and all the rest, comedian. He's joining us here because he has a new book out that he's very proud of and critically acclaimed. People are raving about it. Disco, Music, Movies, and Mania under the Mirror Ball. We're going to show that in just a second. As I mentioned, he's best known for some 12 plus years as the host of the daily national satellite radio program, The Frank DeCaro Show, and his much lauded 6-year stint as the flamboyant movie critic on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. He spent 4 years touring North America as the opening act as well for comedian Lisa Lampanelli. I don't know if you knew that as well. He's also written for the New York Times and Spy Magazine. He also contributes to Emmy magazine as well. And that is just the short list of his iconic career. With the book that's just out, and again, this is not his first book. He's been a published author for quite some time now. It is right here on the screen for you, and it is a page turner, folks. You're going to absolutely love this book. You may already have it. I know there's a number of people have told me that they got it already, which is fantastic. But if you didn't, we're going to also tell you how you can get this book and where you can get it and all the rest. And we're going to tell you a little bit about what it is, too, that is really dazzling everybody. It is a dazzling volume shining new light on the songs, styles, and enduring pop culture impact of the 1970s musical genre that emerged from Black and Latin queer culture to take the world by storm. Half a century after the drug-fueled and DI-driven glamour-drenched music phenomenon of disco was born in New York City, in the Loft Party, disco's musical and fashion influences live. They live on in popular culture. They sure do. It's a frolicking, entertaining, yet serious tribute to the overlooked art form of disco, which has never been given its proper due nor taken its true place, and also the historic struggle for LGBTQ plus gender and racial equality, and so much more. It paints a vivid portrait of the provocative era. Frank explores the cultural importance of disco and how the music and dance that originated in queer, Black, and Latino clubs of the day became a mainstream phenomenon, changing our culture along the way. And with glamorous photos from disco's heyday, we're going to show you some of them, courtesy of Photo Fest. Some really cool shots. This examines disco's pervasive influence on pop culture over the last 50 years, exploring disco in film and television, as well as in fashion and interior design. And through entertaining texts, as well as interviews with artists and celebrities of the era, such as Donna Summer, Grace Jones, among others, the book champions the diverse origins of disco while celebrating its influence on groundbreaking artists of today, like Lady Gaga and Miley Cyrus and so many others. A must for music lovers of all kinds of music, style, and also pop culture. Again, it's right there on your screen. It's a cool cover too, isn't it? You're going to love this, and you're going to love our very special guest who is joining us from Studio City, California, USA. Here is an icon in entertainment, pop culture, and so much more. Frank DeCaro, first time and not the last on the Jim Masters Show.
Hey,
Frank, welcome to the show, my friend.
thank you for having me on. I love there was electronic dance music at the top. You've got this glimmering disco curtain behind you. We're totally ready.
We're all set.
And I have my I Dream of Jeannie bottle on the shelf here, just like you have in the beginning of your show. So
yeah, we have, there it is. Where's yours? Mine's right here.
I'll get it for you.
There's mine right there. Wow, there it is. That's the talk about another cultural icon, Barbara Eden. Oh,
I don't know if she did. She was one of the few people I don't think did disco. Although I bet if she was on any variety shows in the 70s, she certainly qualified.
Absolutely.
Because everybody was doing it back then. So
they sure
were. Having the damnedest time with this disco book. I am having so much fun telling people about it because you go away for a few years and kind of go down the rabbit hole of whatever you're researching. And then when you reemerge, it's like, here's the new baby that's been gestating for years. And now it's here. So my little girl is here and she's pretty. So
it sure is. And congratulations, my friend. How long did it take and what was the inspiration, the initial inspiration to cover this area? Because like I said in the introduction, it really is a form of music that when you do hear it, you feel good. You want to hear more of it, but it is often maligned. I remember when they burned all the records in the baseball stadium, that radio contest and all. Yeah, it's good to be talking about it. And you're hearing actually samples of it in TV commercials and things of today as well.
Oh,
people think it's new music and you're like, no. That was from the 70s. That's Andrea True Connection. More that you're hearing.
And you're hearing it in the supermarket, and you're in the pasta aisle, and you're thinking more carbs, but you are hearing Andrea True wherever you're going, or Gloria Gaynor, or Thelma Houston, or the Village People. I did this book because, well, it goes back to my previous book. I did a book called Drag: Combing Through the Bigwigs of Show Business. And people I interviewed talked about how the drag book was shedding light on an art form that, even though it seems like it's well known, people don't know a lot about it, and it's never really given the proper respect. I remember one person who kind of got all choked up, and they said to me, "We're always the handful of glitter to spice things up, or we're the parsley on the plate, but we're never treated as the main dish." And that really was tough. And the drag queen got a little weepy and said, "No one's ever really asked me about my artistry." And when I was thinking of what I wanted to follow up the drag book with, I thought, well, what else is something I love and have long followed and have been a lifelong fan of that I could shed some light on? And disco proved to be the topic that I wanted to explore, and partly because it was personal, and partly because it seemed so much to be in the zeitgeist again. I mean, as we were saying, all the while I was writing the book, even during the COVID lockdown, you were hearing disco songs on television and commercials, and it really was out there, and I'm glad that it is, because we needed disco to lift us up the way we needed it in the 70s, the way we needed it during the AIDS crisis of the 80s and 90s as well. It went from being this music to party with, to music to listen to buoy your spirits and keep you going through life. And I do think that's why it's in the the cosmos again, that we're sort of feeling disco again, because we need it. We need something to lift us up and keep us going in our day-to-day life. And
That's right. Yeah. As much as we need all those classic TV shows, that the
yeah,
Lucys and the Dick Van Dykes and everything that makes us feel good, that a lot of people are returning to, especially during the pandemic. Uh, or as my friend from Larry from Earth, Wind and Fire said, the damn demic. That's what he's
yeah,
calling it.
it's not the worst thing. I have to say, it is the music of so many of our concerns today, in that disco is the music of empowerment.
Yeah.
It's the music about going forward, not backward, to quote Kamala Harris. It is the music of diversity and inclusion. And even though Studio 54 had that notorious door policy where you had to be fabulous enough to get in, once you got in there, even if you were, a starving artist, or the guy at the window dresser who didn't have two nickels to rub together but had a fabulous fashion sense, you were equal to Liza Minnelli and Halston and Andy Warhol and Truman Capote, and you could dance with them on the dance floor. So they said it was the ultimate democracy on the dance floor. And I think that's where we're at now as a culture. A lot of us is wanting to feel included and celebrated, and we're not going backwards. And I think that's what disco music is so popular. Also, it's, you can't, you might have to check your pulse if you can, hear certain disco songs and not tap a foot or start dancing. It's like, you really should check your vital signs, because they're so good that a disco song that's really, worth its salt is you can't resist it. And that's why you do find me dancing to things like More in the supermarket, in the pasta aisle, because you hear it and you're just like, I'm not going to waste this opportunity. I might as well do a little boogie, a little something going on, while I'm picking out my orecchiette, so my mustacholi. But and I think that it's great music. But what other genre of music were we told, oh, it sucks and you should hate it? It's like, it was a weird thing. And I think we're starting to understand that the people who hated disco kind of hated the audience for disco, and that was really, and the people who were making it. It wasn't completely about the music for them. It was music made by strong women and people of color and the queer community. And I always say, in the right drag, Sylvester ticked all three boxes. In the right drag, he was a strong woman of color and also queer. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Although the people who put on Disco Demolition Night still they will not admit it was racist or homophobic. Even though it was.
It gave way. It gave way to sort of the introduction, which started to come in a little bit, to punk rock, right?
Well, punk was going on at the same time.
They were sort of competing.
But new wave kind of was the love child of both of them, and that became the sound of the early and mid 80s, particularly. The thing we weren't told, because of who was telling the stories, they were the guys who were writing the stories about music were tended to be straight white men at newspapers and magazines, and they were not disco's big audience to begin with. So we were told that disco had died, even though, even the Village People movie, Can't Stop the Music, which was a total flop in America, was huge in Australia. That the Village People had their greatest hit in Italy in the 80s. So it was kind of the story they didn't want us to know, was that disco laid the groundwork for new wave music and for hip hop as well. I mean, hip hop was coming up at the same time, but it was borrowing bass lines from Chic and other early bands and creating this amazing music as well. And I tell people who are young now, I said, hip hop is the only thing that's been as big and as culturally influential as disco in the last 50 years, in terms of really crossing over from music to movies to fashion to television. it was a thorough and complete tsunami in pop culture terms when disco was in, the way hip hop was 20 years later on our culture. I think we weren't really told the whole story, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book as well, because I want to tell the disco story the way we were not told all those years ago. We were just told it's dead, the music is insipid, you should hate it, and it'll never last. And the big joke was always, oh yeah, disco bands, you'll never have a disco band with a greatest hits album, which is absurd. I mean, just off the top of my head, the people who had huge number of hits, I mean, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Donna Summer, the Bee Gees. I mean, it's just, there was a lot of amazing music being made. And so to sort of say disco sucks is just absurd. And especially you put a list together and you're like, well, how could it have sucked if there are hundreds of really good songs? So it's sort of, I don't think you can say that. So it was a drag. Meanwhile, the Bee Gees they were kind of the straight guys who snuck in. I mean, they were the kings of disco, but it wasn't really about straight white guys, except for them and a handful of others. I mean, it really was a watershed moment for women and people of color and queer people. So it was kind of a special moment. I also think we, as a queer writer, I mean, I have look at the Solid Gold Dancers. As a queer writer myself, I just, I wanted to be told that people can, appreciate disco, and especially now that there's no stigma attached to it anymore. I mean, young people download everything. You don't have to go to a special store in Greenwich Village to buy your disco singles. You can download anything, and you can you can download the Sex Pistols, a Donna Summer song, a 1930s jazz tune by Fats Waller, and something from the 90s by Moby, and the latest Dua Lipa song. I mean, you can do anything, and it's all music and all valid and all there to be enjoyed. So
absolutely. Some people they sort of wrote it off like, oh, it's not really music and all this other stuff. But we've had musicians and composers and arrangers and others who've worked in a lot of different genres of music come through the Jim Master Show as well, and even chatting with some of them on my work on PBS. And a lot of them will say, one of the things that I've always enjoyed about it is the fact that from a musical standpoint, a lot of the songs had fabulous orchestrations. I mean, strings and flutes and guitars, real instruments, full sound, rhythmic, percussive beats, not as synthesized maybe as the 80s started to become. There's some in there, but a lot of it was real instruments, bands, orchestral sounds, rhythms and beats, bringing in again the woodwinds and the strings, and it was a full cool sound.
It was lush. It was
really
right,
exactly,
lavish,
right.
And I think that's a hallmark of the disco sound, is how lavish it is. And I say that, but then you think, well, it was also the pared down quality of something like I Feel Love, which is still, I think, the greatest disco song of all time, Donna Summer's I Feel Love. They said 45 years ago or 50 years ago, they said it sounded like the future. And you know what? It still sounds like the future. And don't take it from me. That was something that Brian Eno said to David Bowie. He brought in the record and said, listen to this. It sounds like the future. And so if it's good enough for David Bowie and Brian Eno, it's good enough for me. So I will say that it's an amazing, amazing song. Yeah, disco was, it's the music of diversity, and it's the music of empowerment, and it's and you can dance your ass off to it. I mean, that's really the bottom line of it, as you can wear out your shoe leather boogieing to it. And it was, there's an interesting, you mentioned working for PBS. There was a 3-part PBS documentary called Soundtrack of a Revolution, Disco Soundtrack of a Revolution. And I interviewed the director, and I told her, I said, we're either both right or we're both wrong, because we're telling the same disco history in our respective projects. And she said to me, I think we're both right. So I'm glad. I hope that that is, in fact, the case, that we've nailed it. But it meant a lot to minorities. It really was that watershed moment of great strides being made in terms of equality. And so it shouldn't be discounted. No one ever, as when I was a young kid being told disco sucks, no one ever mentioned those qualities, that it could possibly, that a song with only 6 words, fly robin fly up to the sky, okay, that was that 8 words, that was the entire lyric for Fly Robin Fly. And Get Up and Boogie, I think, had like 6 words. But Get Up and Boogie, that's right. Okay, 6. Okay.
Play freak,
Well,
stay
that
chic.
that had no lyrics.
Yeah,
But Get Up and Boogie had 6 words,
yeah, yeah.
So rock people were like, that's not a song. And it's like, well, it kind of still is, and it's kind of pared down and wonder. You put it on now and you could clean your whole house to Get Up and Boogie. I'm telling you. If you're gonna do windows, that's your song. You can definitely clean your whole house to that.
Casey and the Sunshine Band, of course. Yeah, That's the Way I Like It, and all these songs. ABBA.
Yeah, ABBA is the best. I asked Andy Bell from Erasure, because in the 80s, he was one of those people, 80s and 90s, that kind of, not only did Erasure make ABBA into the cultural force that they revived it. They really did, with their cover songs of Erasure, of ABBA. But I thought he would give an interesting perspective on it. So I asked him, I said, okay, Andy, is ABBA really disco? And he said, no, but they have a huge disco yacht that they can pull into port whenever they want. And I thought that was a very funny way to put it. It's like they have a big disco yacht. So, but, you look at, first, I always say about ABBA, I said, if somebody says they don't like ABBA, or the ABBA movies, if they don't like Mamma Mia, don't be friends with them. Okay, you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. You don't need it. It's not worth having those people around.
Who's some of your personal favorites? The music, like if you were to pick
disco or any genre, or disco, we should say.
Specifically disco, yeah, or any genre, but specifically disco first. Who do you? What would be your top 10 songs in your player if you were to, or groups that you would have in it?
All right, let's see. I would pick I Feel Love by Donna Summer, Night Fever by the Bee Gees, Dancer by Gino Socio, Supernature by Cerrone, Cherchez la Femme by Dr. Buzzard's Original Savannah Band, Take Me Home by Cher, I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor, YMCA by the Village People, let's see, Don't Leave Me This Way by Thelma Houston, and what should be a good You Make Me Feel Mighty Real by Sylvester, which is the gay national anthem. I didn't think I was going to do 10 that fast. I didn't think I could do
good,
it.
Huh?
That's 10 for me, 10 points for me. So I'm very glad that I was able to do that. Yeah, the book has playlists throughout the whole thing on songs. If you're going to do a must-hear playlist, I've got it for years and then stretches of time. I've grouped them that way. Right up to now, I mean, there's some 2024 songs in the book that are mentioned.
How'd you come up with the cover too? The cover is fantastic.
I was working with an amazing designer, but we saw that photo. My first thought was, I thought, oh well, let's put a nude male torso holding a disco ball in his crotch, because of course that's me. That's what I would do. And they said to me, straight men won't buy that book. Women will be embarrassed. The only 5 gay men will buy that book. And I was like, oh my God, that's fascinating. And so we were looking at stuff. And when they said, to look for cover options, we had disco balls and light show, beams of light and everything. And then we saw this photo, this woman walking into Studio 54 in a, with balloons and a bikini. And we were like, she's our girl. And the moment we saw this, the only thing they said, but her tush is hanging out. And I said, put the word disco over it. It's like,
right across.
Really her nether regions there. Just put it across and be a little demure, and to use the word everyone loves. And, we'll make her look good. So that was kind of how it happened. But it wasn't like 10 tries. It was like, once we saw this, that's the one. And I didn't think that the sort of uh, those sort of pastel colors that are there in the foil part. I didn't know what that was going to look like. When you see it in person, it's even prettier. And so it really kind of works. There it looks kind of flat, but it's metallic and it sort of shimmers in the light. And so it is very disco-y in a non-stereotypical kind of way. You know, there is no disco ball on the cover, but you get the idea. Definitely. So I have to tell you, I didn't tell you about the story of the Donna Summer interview, right? I didn't mention that. I've been talking to everyone, so I get confused what I've told you.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
and all our viewers are saying hello to you. They're watching live, commenting. They love you.
Hello, everyone.
They're very excited to have you here. And Cullen Field said he remembers seeing you. Where is it? Oh, this one. He remembers seeing you on the Game Show Network version of I've Got a Secret.
Oh, yes. I still have that awful green suit that I wore. I looked like a gay supervillain. I really did. I had this lime green Riddler. I look like Riddler on a helium pill.
He remembers, and he wanted to pass condolences to the fellow panelist, Billy Bean.
Yes, Billy Bean. We were shocked. I mean, Billy Bean was the one of us who was in good shape. You know, I mean, he was like really, an amazing athlete and broke down walls in, for queer athletes. And, he was out of the closet, Major League Baseball player. He was amazing. But yeah, we lost him. We were all very, very sad. And you think showbiz is very superficial, but on that day when we all found out, we all got in touch with each other again and paid tribute to him. And it's a very sad thing, and it was fun to get to know him a little bit. We could not have been more different, and we could not have had more fun together. You know, I mean, the only thing we had in common was being gay. He was, he was athletic, he was outdoorsy, he was physical, and I was sort of like, stay over
creative
there.
And enthusiastic and creative, enthusiastic, and passionate.
I'm those things, and he was his own thing. But no, he was a fascinating guy who really tore down some walls. But I think that's what we're all trying to do is connect with other folks.
And
thank you for remembering that.
Oh yeah, they're all commenting and welcoming you, and we thank them. We call them our Jim Master Show lovities because I said at the start of the series 4.5 years ago that the show has a lot of light, love, and levity. And I stumbled on it once. I said the show has a lot of light, levity, combining love and levity. So when that happened, they jumped on it, Frank, and they said, guess what? You're now Mr. Levity. This is Levity Hall. We're your Levity squad, and the guests are part of the Levity family. So they've already designated you a Jim Master Show Levity. How cool is that?
I love it. I want a T-shirt now, though. But white letters on black. It's my favorite combination.
Levity. So you had that story. Was it Donna Summer?
Oh, Donna Summer. Okay.
Yeah.
So in 1999, TV Guide sent me to Nashville to interview Donna Summer. So when I decided I was going to do this disco book, I thought, okay, well, I'll find the clips from those stories and I'll be able to use some stuff in the book. That'll be great. So I go and I look at the stories that were published in TV Guide, and all of the quotes from Donna Summer, even though I was there to interview her, the occasion was that there was a sort of a behind the music kind of special, and she was doing a concert for VH1. So I was interviewing about that. But all the stuff that they ended up running was, I paint now. That's my new passion. I'm raising my daughter in Nashville. It's a great town to write songs in, blah, blah, blah. And there was nothing about her disco career or her status as a disco icon, the queen of disco. And also nothing about when she had a flap with the press because she said a joke about Adam and Steve instead of Adam and Eve, and the gay community was all offended. And so none of that ran. And I thought, well, I've got to find this interview. And my husband, who's a Virgo and very detail oriented, was like, you don't throw a damn thing away. Go find that interview. So I went looking for notes. And
I have Virgo rising, I've been told.
Just keep it in check. You're all a bunch of serial killers.
Jim Colucci, of course, yes. who was a guest on our show as well. He's terrific. In case the viewers didn't know that they are partners.
We're married, and 28 years we've been standing next to each other. It's amazing. So anyway, so Nuji McVirgo, my husband, said you have to find this interview. And I thought, I wouldn't have taped the interview. I used to be so old-fashioned that I would just take notes on those reporters' notebooks, those long, skinny notebooks. And so I thought, I wouldn't have taped it. And then I looked and looked and looked and found nothing. And I thought, oh, this is the worst. Well, he wouldn't leave it alone. So I thought, it wouldn't be on a cassette, would it have? Or a micro cassette? Well, I found a box that had a broken micro cassette recorder in it. And damn it, if I didn't have the 2-hour lunch recorded with Donna Summer. And so I immediately went, well, first I found out that it was truly broken. So I had to go online and buy a used micro cassette recorder because they don't make them anymore. No one uses that. And so I found a used one on eBay and I put the tape in it. And all the while I'm going, please don't break. Please don't break. Please don't break. You're 25 years old. Please don't break.
Don't.
And so I got it through and I digitized it and then I transcribed it and then I edited it down. So the interview, is from that TV Guide interview, but none of it has ever been seen before because all this was the material that nobody cared about in 1999. What they cared about was, I love to paint and I do gallery shows and I'm writing country songs for other artists. So that was the kind of quotes. And so we've got her talking about all the things we care about. And, when they won the Oscar for Last Dance and when he first wrote it and she first heard it and heard the demo and, it's got a lot of good stuff in there. I have to say the book is very kitchen sink in the sense that there's so much stuff in there. Someone will find something that I didn't put in, but I really, really did my damnedest to put as much in there as I possibly could. Because
how did you know how to assemble it? How did you know how to organize it with all the information that you gathered and the research that you did?
Honestly, when you do any of these, even if they are these little sort of episodes throughout the book, there is an arc that sort of presents itself when you're writing the book. You sort of think, well, okay, if we're going to start in 1970 with the opening of the Loft, this proto-disco in downtown New York City that set the tone for Studio 54 5 or 6 or 7 years later, well, we'll start there. And you think, well, all right, well, what happened after that? And then you think, okay, well, there was this Studio 54 happened. And then you're like, well, what happened? Well, the movies spread the word. Saturday Night Fever was a huge thing. So you think, well, that'll be the third chapter. And then you think, well, it moved across the country. So there's your fourth chapter. And then you think people were dressing this way. Fashion chapter. That was the fifth chapter. So it kind of kept going in a way that was thematic and somewhat chronological. And it kind of, it presents itself. And I tell people, I may have to start coaching people in terms of writing books, but someone asked me they wanted to do a nonfiction book. And I said, you have to let the book be what it wants to be. And it will, if it's good, it will present itself to you and you'll know, how to impart the information and what order to do it in and what's worth keeping and what's worth losing. So it kind of becomes this sort of organic thing. I'm lucky, though, because the topics that I write about are things that I love. So what I'm spreading is my enthusiasm, my joy about a topic. So it's not exactly a sad occasion, even when you're dealing with the realities of, say, what the AIDS crisis did to the disco moment and stuff. So even though there are weighty topics in there, you talk about racism, you talk about the AIDS crisis, you talk about, I say how the disco demolition night was sort of a MAGA movement in 1979. It was this MAGA rally looking militaristic, horrible thing, So there's serious stuff in there, but ultimately it's a celebration and a party the way disco should be. So you kind of leave your cares outside the way people have always done it at a disco. And you walk into the book and once you make it through that little bit of seriousness in the beginning, you start to realize, oh, this is going to be a good time.
As you were writing the book, were you reliving any of your own experiences in youth as you were telling these stories?
Yeah, people always say, well, what was your first exposure to disco? And I say I was about 13 and I was sitting in a ceramic studio. And if you think it's throwing pots and that sort of thing, well, maybe if you were wealthy growing up, that was you. If you were from a working class background, ceramic studio meant you painted ceramics, along with your mother, kind of thing. So I
And
remember
gave
being
them
there
as
with a
Christmas
friend.
gifts.
Yes, where all those fabulous ceramic Christmas trees with the pokey lights in them come from now that we all collect. But I was in there, I was about 13 years old, and I was there with a friend, and I remember hearing Rock the Boat by the Hughes Corporation on the radio. And that, I feel like, is probably the first real exposure to it. And then I just listened to the music from then on. So that was about 74. So that was fairly early on in the disco trend. And then it built and built and built. And I was loving it all along. And here's where I get very California on you. So in 1979, I was 16 years old, and a friend invited me to see the Bee Gees in concert at Madison Square Garden in New York City. So last month I was doing the first signing for the book was at Rizzoli Books on about 26th Street and Broadway. And I looked at the concert ticket that is early on in the book, and it's my own Bee Gees concert ticket. And I hadn't really paid attention to the date or anything. Well, it was 45 years to the hour, 8 blocks from where I was at the Bee Gees concert, to the day, to the hour, 8 blocks away, doing this disco thing, because it was September 11th, 2024, and September 11th, 1979. So if I do my math correct, I think that is 45 years. Let's hope I'm right. So I think that's the woo-woo part of it, where you're like, oh, I've lived in LA too long now. But it did seem like, between finding the Donna Summer tapes that I didn't think existed and doing this on the anniversary of my Bee Gees concert experience that really solidified my love of disco, I thought, okay, maybe there's some reason for me doing all of this and getting the word out about disco and its history.
Are there any artists that you wish that you could have had an opportunity to sit down and chat with, or just even meet and shake their hand or give them a hug, of these incredible artists from that period of time?
I would have loved to sat with Sylvester. I admired him. I guess if he'd lived, God love him, he'd have been a them probably today, a they, them. But he was an amazing singer and gay icon, and at a time where it was tougher to be that. He really was this voice for just being yourself. He was famously on a Joan Rivers talk show, and she said to him, well, you're a drag queen. And he said, I'm not a drag queen, I'm Sylvester. And I think that is the kind of sentiment that couldn't be more contemporary. That is what everyone is striving for. Is, I'm not filling the label, I'm me. And he's the patron saint of that. And of course he died so young of AIDS, but his music lives on. And I always say that You Make Me Feel Mighty Real is the gay national anthem, and it should be. You should stand when you hear, and dance, but definitely stand when you hear it and salute. Put your hand over your heart, because it's the national anthem for the gays, and I say that as one of the gays, but it sounds so much better, the gays. I don't know why people don't say that more. It's just, I'm one of the gays. I'm one of the big gays. Okay, pound for pound, I'm one of the big gays, but. I think I would have liked to have met him most. And in his heyday, when he was young, I would have liked to ogle Casey of Casey and the Sunshine Band, because I think he was very cute. He's all right now, but
They've done some resurrections, haven't they? Been performing a little bit
yeah,
here
they
and there?
perform,
Yeah.
but you're not going to throw your underwear at him anymore, really. I mean, maybe you would if you met him. I don't know. But when you were,
Like they used to for Tom Jones?
Tom Jones. I was, and I hope this is true. We went to a Tom Jones concert at the Limelight in New York, and he said it was the first time a man threw his underwear at him. But it was Chelsea, it was the hotbed of gay New York at the time, and there was Tom Jones at the Limelight Disco. And somebody threw his Y-fronts at Tom Jones. It's like, well, well, it was at the time, it was welcome to the 90s time. Now, you throw a pasty with and a jock strap at the same time, you do whatever, knock yourself out, it's a different time now. But
absolutely. They also say that, as we're talking about disco, that the category is also, as far as genres and styles, soul and R&B as well for the book.
Yeah, well, what's interesting to me is when disco started in 1970, as the Nicky Ciano, the DJ for Studio 54, said to me, he said there wasn't enough true disco music. He said we called it danceable R&B, and that's what we were playing. So that's why you have someone in the book like Frida Payne, who, yes, she did record disco records later, but her hit was Band of Gold, and it kind of bridges the gap between girl group and disco and dance music. But
she was with us twice on the show, and what a fabulous person she is.
She's going to come and sit with me. I'm doing a panel, and I've not told anyone this, December 5th at the Grammy Museum in LA. And so far, the guests are going to be Donna Pescow from Saturday Night Fever.
She was just on a couple weeks ago with us. She's a magical person. Yes.
Woman. And Frida Payne. And Frida is one of those icons that you're just like, she's like, oh, just call me. Off the record.
Yeah.
Just between us. Not every celebrity is that
going to do that, right?
Okay. My favorite thing with doing the book was I called Gloria Gaynor's people, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Gloria knows who you are." She said, "Just call her. Here's her number." That's what you want. That's the kind of celebrity going. Hi, are you an icon? Yes, you are. And it's like, hi, call me. That's that's what I love in a celebrity. Like, call me. It's fine. There she is. There's our gorgeous caftaned golden girl there. Look how beautiful. So
we have wonderful photos here that courtesy of Photo Fest.
These are all in the book, and it was fun. I tell you,
Village People, right there. Yeah.
They don't tell you in journalism school that you have to be a photo editor too. But I did. I picked out all these photos, and then you have to figure out how to license them, and you do that too. Look, it's what's happening.
That's right.
Disco episode. Oh, it was called Disco for Dollars. Was the episode?
Oh yes, that's right.
Right. There was
of course the Brady Bunch too.
Yes, the Brady Bunch. Nothing was more deranged in disco than the Brady Bunch variety hour. I interviewed Susan Olsen, Cindy Brady, and she said they had us singing the disco version of Toot Toot Tootsie Goodbye, and I laughed so hard. I thought it was funny, but they did that. There was that strange nostalgia in the step.
They would do disco versions of standards, pop songs, easy listening songs. I mean, Percy Faith Orchestra has an album out. When I actually have it, it's all of these songs that are done disco style, full orchestral that you would never think. And it's actually pretty good. I'm like, wow, the way he arranged it, the way he selected these various instruments and the female voices, it sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
There is a disco Johnny Mathis version of Begin the Begin that is so good. And it is downloadable. Frank Sinatra has a couple of downloadable songs on
Andy Williams. I mean, a lot of them sort of went into that. Yeah.
You can't I cannot find, if people can find a legitimate download. He did the Love Story theme as a disco song, but you can't seem to download it. I can't find it. I find his other versions of Love Story, but not the
I'll
disco
dig because I have a huge music collection. I'll dig for that.
And also you got to the disco version of This Is My Life by Shirley Bassey.
Shirley, you are intuitive. Shirley Bassey was the next name I was going to say.
Yes. No, this is the disco version of This Is My Life is great. It's funny that people say, like, what was the big revelation? I knew that a lot of people had jumped on the disco bandwagon in the 70s, but what was so shocking to me was how many people jumped on the disco bandwagon. It was not only the people we've just mentioned, but it was a lot of non-singers as well, including, and I'm not kidding, there's a Bill Cosby disco album called Disco Bill, and it's kind of a comedy record, but there was a song called Boogie on Your Face, and that's out there. The comedian who used to do You Can Call Me Ray, or You Can Call Me Jay, but doesn't have to call me Johnson. He has a song called Disco Johnson, which is hilarious.
Yes.
sounds dirty.
And Disco Duck, wasn't that Rick Dees?
Rick Dees had Disco Duck, but with him, that was a novelty record. I mean, I guess these other ones were too, but it's stranger to me that these comedians would be doing stuff. That Anne Margaret has a whole disco album. Lisa Minnelli has a whole disco album. There's a Carpenter's disco song. Not the Carpenters, Karen Carpenter.
Karen, song. Right. Any disco songs you don't really favor?
No, I kind of like them. I like them I like them when they're really good, like I Feel Love, and I like them when they're really bad, like Disco Duck. The thing I think, I have not heard Disco Rilla, which was the follow-up to Disco Duck, in many years, and I just wonder if it's so bad that's why people won't play it for us. Why you can't download Disco Rilla. But I think there was also, and I'm not kidding, there was Macho Duck on Mickey Mouse Disco. Okay, there was Me Lost Me Cookie at the Disco by Cookie Monster. We were being indoctrinated very young.
Everybody and everything was disco, right? I've heard disco style Christmas music. I mean, it's
terrible, but it's wonderful. But it's terrible.
But when you that's when you hear it, you gotta like start moving along.
My favorite, Charo, has a disco song called Coochie Coochie. Okay, of course.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it has my favorite lyrics of all disco in it. It's Johnny Carson and my sister want the same thing. They want Coochie Coochie. Okay, that's my favorite. Okay, Johnny Carson and my sister. Those are some good lyrics, I think. They want the same thing. They want Coochie Coochie. We got invited to our house for a record release party. No one has ever RSVP'd faster to something.
To something like that.
Oh my God, I was there. I don't think the ink had dried, and I was like, "We're coming."
That is cool. There's another good shot from the book, huh? Travolta.
That's Denny Terrio, who was the Dance Fever host.
Yeah, Dance Fever, right.
Teaching the movements to John Travolta. And Denny Terrio is the guy who came up with the finger point, the pointing over your head.
That's right.
That Travolta made so famous. And so he's gone from being the Dance Fever host to an emoji. Denny Terrio is an emoji now, which I think is hilarious. But
Skate Town USA, remember that?
That is Patrick Swayze up front there.
Patrick Swayze, right?
So he's something else. He looks very good in his Lycra, and that movie is one of the 20 disco movies that I identify in the book. And I didn't force is the word, my husband to watch it with me, because his tolerance for terrible movies is not as high as mine. In fact, I prefer terrible movies to good ones. I really do like you could say what a terrible
B cheesy sort of.
B is good. B is a good grade.
Not the movie that airs at midnight, but the movie that starts at 2 a.m.
That's the kind I really like. Well, I watched the roller disco movies, which there are a handful of, and of course Xanadu is wonderful, but that's because we all love Olivia Newton-John, and it's pretty great. But then there's Roller Boogie and Skate Town USA, and so I watched those two, and my husband said, "Well, which is better?" And I said, "Well, I like Skate Town USA better because it's worse, and Roller Boogie would have been better, if it had been worse. But it's." And he looked at me, and I just kept trying to explain this elliptical logic, but it's like, yeah, Roller Boogie tried to be good, so that made it bad. But Skate Town USA was bad, and it knew it, so that made it good. And so I was just going on, and he was just glad he didn't have to watch any of them with me. There's one that I love. I bet you haven't seen. Have you seen Abby?
Okay. No.
Abby was known originally, it was going to be called The Black Exorcist. Okay. And the studio said, no, we will sue you if you call it. So they called it Abby. And all you need to know is that William Marshall, who was not only Blackula in the blaxploitation movies, he was also the king of cartoons on Pee-wee's Playhouse. He plays an exorcist, and he performs an exorcism on the dance floor, and the disco ball explodes and crashes into the bar into a fiery inferno. And when the devil is cast out of this beautiful woman's body, the devil's voice says, "I was tired of that bitch anyway." And so I laughed so hard at that. It was so Abby, you need to see. There's also a great disco scene in a terrible horror movie, like truly the 99-cent store version of Carrie called Jennifer. And
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
she's got power over snakes instead of telekinesis. But there's a great disco scene in that as well. But it's the same disco that's in Thank God It's Friday, which was a
There
disco in
was
LA
a
called Oscar. Yeah.
disco-themed version of Family with Christy McNichol and Meredith Baxter Burney and Seda Thompson and Gary Frank and James Broderick. And it was a whole episode, and it was on the disco scene. And Buddy Lawrence, Christy McNichol, was going into her teens now, and she wanted to branch out from the family, and she wanted to go explore. And she got into some trouble hanging out with this friend who was a dancer, and they would go to the disco clubs together. And she really looked at the older friend as a mentor, but yet she was using Christy McNichol or Buddy Lawrence, I guess, to bring her in, to sort of get her into the disco world and to get her hooked up with guys and all this kind of stuff. And it was really, she got caught driving. She didn't have a license yet. Her friend in the episode, Christy was the passenger, the friend was driving, and the friend needed to go into the liquor store to get cigarettes or something. And she said to Christy, just sit in the driver's seat, and can you just wait for me? I'll be right out. And police pull up. They see Christy there. They see liquor bottle. They see all this stuff. And this friend, the older friend, the dancer, peeks out, sees the police around the car, does not help her, goes back into the store, and it becomes a whole friend problem and everything. And then, of course, the cops go to the Lawrences. Your daughter, Kate and Doug Lawrence, your daughter, Buddy, was driving a car. She has no license. It was and it was around a whole disco theme. And you can see that in the whole series Family on Tubi. And
Well,
of
now I
course,
have to watch that. I've never.
it's a whole.
That's not in my book.
We just had Gary Frank on and Elaine Hivel, who was the original Nancy during the mini series.
I was the original Nancy. Do not.
You were the original Nancy.
No, not that Nancy. Never mind. Right.
And yeah, I was a big fan of the series because I always admired Seda Thompson and just some of the incredible people. But there was a whole disco episode.
Now you've pointed to a hole in my manuscript. Do not point at my hole, Jim Masters. Okay.
My name is Masters. I am the master.
Good.
I'm a TV.
You're good at this. I've got to get that. I have to find out about that.
It's on Tubi.
You have to see the Buddy Epson Does the Hustle episode of Barnaby Jones, and you have to. There's a disco Wonder Woman. There is a disco. There's a 2-part Hawaii Five-0 with Yvonne Elliman. If I can't have you, I want nobody, baby.
Can't have you.
She's in it. That you have to watch. And there's of course the roller disco episode of Chips, which is the most deranged. Every strange star of the 70s is in that episode and on Wheels.
Everybody who was on the Love Boat or Fantasy Island.
It kind of makes the Love Boat look like Citizen Kane casting. I mean, it's a deranged bunch of people on wheels on this Chips episode.
Did you ever meet RuPaul? Merlin in Canada and Ontario was asking that. Would you like to meet
RuPaul? Yes. Okay. RuPaul was a brunette when I met her. Okay. I lived in New York beginning in 1988, and I was there till 2013. And is that right? Yes, 2013. And so I knew Ru way back in the day, long before Supermodel of the World came out in 93. And someone wrote to me, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm telling you what they told me. They said the first person to mention RuPaul in a mainstream daily newspaper was me, and I'm guessing that may be true because that was the kind of person I was fascinated by and continue to be fascinated by. So it was very much my scene back in the day. So I did. My mother was dying to meet Ru, and it never happened. But my mother did meet Dame Edna, and so that was. And Dame Edna whispered in her ear a very sweet thing about me, and it was really lovely. And my mom beamed for age. And
it's too bad what happened to Andy Gibb, huh?
So yes, but another Australian, yes. Me speaking of Dame Ed, yeah, Andy Gibb. Yeah, I think we have to. He was lost way too young. But there's the pop culture landscape is littered with gorgeous people with so much talent who were taken from us too soon for
Yeah.
so many reasons. And it's I do. I mean, it will always be a tragedy to lose someone that young, but it is better when you leave good things behind. That all these years later we're still talking about him and thinking good
Yeah. Well,
thoughts about.
what's great about all of this is, as I mentioned, as you're celebrating these artists and celebrities and the music and the songs themselves and everything that goes on around it, you are also celebrating the influence, as I mentioned earlier, on today's
Oh
groundbreaking
my God,
artists,
yeah.
the Lady Gagas and Miley Cyrus's and all the others.
Dua
And
Lipa wouldn't exist without the disco
Dua
movement.
Lipa,
I mean,
exactly,
she's
as
brilliant,
well.
but it's there, and yeah, I listen. So much of what we listen to now harks back to disco, not only in sound. I mean, I don't think you get Lizzo's "About Damn Time" without listening to a bunch of Chic records from the '70s, but also that whole sort of empowerment theme that young people love listening to and take feel empowered, feel made stronger by these empowerment anthems that we hear. um I think that shares a kinship with disco from back in the day as well.
Absolutely. I want to let the viewers know too, and they probably know, but your work has appeared in a myriad of publications, including, as I mentioned, New York Times Magazine, Martha Stewart Living, Entertainment Weekly, Newsweek, Vogue, and The Advocate. And
Oh, remember magazines? Oh, it was fun. They used to spend
Clark,
money.
the
It was
open
fun. Yeah.
as well. And I gotta ask, what was it like? Because a lot of people, of course, remember you from the Daily Show and the time on that series. What was that like, having an opportunity to be on that national series with Jon Stewart and company?
Well, I started uh, 3 years before John arrived, and I was there with Craig Kilborn, and I started a couple of months into the show, and no one was really watching it at the time. But then I quickly realized I had started in television at the top, so there was nowhere to go but down at that point because I was on the hippest show on television. And I stayed for 6.5 years. They were kind enough to have me, and we said ridiculously outrageous, incredibly gay things on the air. Um, and it was very fun. And we were always punching up, as we say. I made horrible fun of celebrities, but it was always very famous people and very moneyed and successful people. So I didn't feel quite so guilty being a complete buffoon and making fun of them. But it was fun. And for people who never got to see it, I'll tell you, this is the level of awful that we got away with. We were doing a lightning round of movie reviews. We were trying to get through a bunch of them. And we were doing these movie reviews, and we got to our next movie is What Women Want. Who cares? And moved on. And that was the end of the review. And we said things like that because of how awful it was. So if you have to understand, it's not like we really felt that way. We knew that was about the worst thing you could possibly say, even then. So that's why we did it. Although if you have to, I remember someone said, "Well, why would you want to say the worst thing?" And I was just like, "I can't explain this to you." It's like that's one of those humor things. It's either you get it or you don't. It's
You
like,
get it or you don't.
But I like the Mel Brooks line: "If you're going to walk up to the bell, you got to ring it." If you walk, you got to get in there, and if you're going to do the awful joke, you really have to go.
You got
And
to go all in.
so we did all. Oh, we said terrible things about. My favorite one was we did Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge, and we showed the footage of her swinging on the trapeze, that famous scene. And I said, Nicole Kidman is a singing, dancing prostitute who wants to be taken seriously as an actress. And then they cut back to me, and I said, I'm sorry, Nicole Kidman plays a singing, dancing prostitute who wants to be taken seriously as an actress. So it was terrible. It was on purpose, it was meant to be awful. That's why we did it. And then we also, it's bad. We showed footage of, I mean, she was married to Tom Cruise at the time, And so we showed footage of Ewan McGregor, who was her co-star in Moulin Rouge. And we said, I never liked her very much, but it's amazing what having a heterosexual partner can do for a girl. And it was, so, I mean, who would say that now? I mean, it was like, what an awful, you know, underhanded little sneaky swipe at Tom Cruise's orientation, you know, as if, you know, I don't really think he was gay, but it certainly was fun to say. So, but we don't need him in our group. We're fine. We've got enough. Thanks. Y'all can keep them. But anyway,
many years on satellite radio too. The Frank DeCaro Show.
Oh my God,
that.
Yeah, it was great. But it's like, you know, if the stuff we couldn't say on the Daily Show, we could say on the radio because it was uncensored. There were things we got away with on there, and not only us, some of our guests. I mean, the language that B. Arthur used on our show, God rest her soul, will live in infamy. Mostly because we played it over and over and over again.
You mean she said more than God will get you for that, Walter?
Yes, there was a CS word in there. There was a lot of stuff. Yeah, we did. We had old ladies dropping the F-bomb, and we had a good time playing all this. I interviewed. There was a woman who was Lucille Ball's protege, and she just died recently. Almost 100 years old. Carol Cook. And I asked her. I said, Carol, you and your husband have been married for
legend.
so many years. I said, and you're so happy together. And I said, is it because you laugh a lot? And she said, honey, no, it's because I'm one of the best F-bombs in Hollywood. And so she was 93 at the time, and she drops the F-bomb on the radio. And it was hilarious. It was just genius, you know. And Ernest Borgnine talked about masturbation. Oh, we had such a good time. It was very fun. I do like talking dirty, apparently. Now I am an old person talking dirty. But it was very fun doing it. We had one show. The show with Ernest Borgnine was Ernest Borgnine and Tom Ford, the director and the designer for Gucci and the Tom Ford collection. And I thought, okay, this is what a Frank DeCaro show should really always be, is this old Hollywood celebrity talking dirty and this hip, gorgeous designer talking chic, you know. So excuse me. I have no cough button. Sorry about that.
It gets you all choked up just thinking about that combination of people.
Ernest Borgnine masturbating always makes me cough. What can I say?
I will never think about the Poseidon Adventure the same way ever again when we watch it.
That boat wasn't the only thing that was upside down. That's all. I never said that out loud before, and I'm never going to say it again.
He said it here for all of us. I just
saw the visual in my mind. I got a visual, and I was like, "Oh, that's terrible." So I'm not.
What are some other things in addition to disco, you know, that you're working on that you're excited about coming up?
Okay, if they'll let me do it. Well, right now I'm really am in sell mode. But if they will let me do it, I want to look at Italian Americans in pop culture, because that's something else that's very close to my heart, because I grew up in an Italian American household. And so I think looking at the stereotypes and the archetypes and the legendary men and women who happen to be Italian American and how they shaped our view of what it means to be Italian American, I think that that would be something I would love to do. But who knows? You know, you always, as an author, you have to get out there and sell. And I mean, if this book does really well, and we hope Disco Music Movies and Mania Under the Mirror Ball does do well, but that will help selling my next idea. But honestly, you start from square one with each new idea, and you have to get the right person interested, and you have to convince them that they could sell it and that there's a market for it. And hopefully there will be. And it's I mean, as an author, there are ways when you do these projects, they sort of justify your taste and your interests and your identity. And, you know, if this is my queer identity in disco and then maybe my Italian American identity as well will be explored in another book. But it will be the same sort of version of not only the amazing things, but also, you know, it'll be Michelangelo, but it'll also be, you know, Mama Celeste and Chef Boyardee and
Al Martino.
You know, Al Martino. No, he's wonderful. But, you know, but I think, like, you know, the Olive Garden will be in there too. You know, you can't make everything from the Olive Garden to Michelangelo. I want to put in a book like this and talk about how we define who we are as Italians living in America. And also, when I look, I feel like so many of the voices of Italian Americans that I hear loudest are not necessarily liberal voices. And I thought, maybe I do have something to say about this, and maybe, I'll be the, someone who can say that. So I hope there'll be things like, interviews with Mario Cantone in a Q&A, and Sebastian Maniscalco and things like that. And
they're terrific, right? Yeah.
I think it will be fun to see if we can get Giorgio Armani before he goes. He's still hanging in there. But I love being Italian American. I love being queer, and so I thought, well,
In that order, or
no, I like being queer best. It's but please don't tell anyone, because it's so fun to be a gay, and there's so many now, and there's not enough. I mean, we'll make room, I guess, but there's so many gays. You used to be able to get hired just for being a gay, and now not. It's just you'd be like,
you don't have to play it because you are it.
Yeah, no, but I had 2 or 3 when they needed a gay talking head. There were like 3, 4 people they could call, and we were all friends. And now we're sort of like, well, I guess they're not calling us now. But it used to be, it was me, Bobby Rivers, God rest his soul, Simon Doonan, wonderful author, and Michael Musto, and if it was political, Michelangelo Signorilli. If it was sexy, Dan Savage, and that was it. I was like, oh, those are our gays, and we'll mouth off about stuff. But now, you can't swing a feather boa without hitting a gay. So it's, and I've tried. Believe me, I have. But it. Are
you doing any stand-up comedy or any? That,
well, not so much.
As well. Yeah,
I host a lot of things, but I was doing stand-up with Lisa Lampanelli, and people were like, "Why are you doing it?" And it was like, because when I was going with her, I was paid well, and I was staying at the Four Seasons with her. It's like, I don't want to. I'm too old to sleep on the pull-out couch at the Chuckle Hut, company condo, and make $100. It's like I can't do it.
And then have to pay tax on the 100.
Have to pay, yeah, exactly. So I mean, I would have to go back to square one, and and rightly so. I mean, I was doing the Lisa thing, and that's people who've been doing stand up their entire lives would have killed for that gig. And here I come along, and she's like, "Oh, you've been doing sit down comedy on the radio. Of course you can do stand up. We'll put an act together." She said, "Just write everything down." And then the scary thing was, she forced me to completely not ever have notes or anything. She's like, if you can't remember it, it's not funny enough. So that became the thing. So I was like, well, I guess I have to learn my entire act now. So she taught me that, but it made me a better performer, a better host. When people ask me, I filled in for the very esteemed film critic David Anson at a film screening recently. And people are like, oh my God, were you nervous? And I was like, no, not a bit. It's like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you know how to keep it going.
And that was really from, working with Lisa. And I jokingly say in my bio now that it was a gig that for which I should have received hazard pay because of, her comedy stylings. But, she was pretty great.
Where do you get the enthusiasm, the inspiration, the energy from? I mean, do you come from a family of creatives and funny people, artsy people? What was the early inspiration in the early years for you, Frank?
They were not artsy, but they liked entertainment, and they liked being entertained a lot. They were very good audience members, but they also were funny in real life. I mean, my father was very sarcastic and bitchy and funny. For a extremely heterosexual man who was a World War II veteran, he had a very bitchy Queen side to him, even though he sounded like this. I remember when I said, "Pop, I auditioned for this thing," and he said, "Well, how'd you do?" And I said, "Well, if they want a comedian, I think I've got it." And he said, "Oh, a comedian? Is that what you call yourself now?" So it's like, thanks, Pop. So he was but my mother was very like, my father would say, "Who the hell is Dolph Lundgren?" And my mother would scream from the other room, "He goes out with that Grace Jones, the one with the flat top." So it was that kind of household. So I had to become this person basically. And they, my mom would go up to celebrities just as I do now. And, if she liked a comedian, I always remember she said, "I met Pat Cooper, who was like a big Italian comedian." And I said, "How did that happen?" She said, "Oh, I went to the ladies' room and I saw him waiting to go on. And I screamed, 'Hey, Pasquale Caputo, come here.'" And so that was my mother, my 5 foot tall Italian mother. So yeah, there was a lot of, my mother was, I want to meet RuPaul. That was, that was her thing.
Feisty, yeah.
Yeah, hilarious. And she was fun and my dad was funny. My mother wasn't
Right.
so funny, but she was enthusiastic. So I got my enthusiasm from her.
Your father
And I
had the
got
quick
my
wit.
sense
Yeah.
of humor from my father, but so caustic. Oh my God. He
Yeah.
was,
Where
just
did he grow up?
New Jersey. Everybody in my family is
Well,
from New
yeah.
Jersey.
Yeah.
And I did the what is it? The ancestry test. I'm Italian, and more Italian. Okay, it's like there were no surprises. It was just Southern Italian, Southern Italian, 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 Southern Italian, and it was just like, oh
No
come
Swiss
on,
in there?
nothing, nothing. I'm as Italian as a can of SpaghettiOs. It's oh well, it is
Do
what
you
it is.
cook?
Yeah, I'm good. Oh, geez, we got so
What's
during
the
COVID.
DeCaro specialty?
My favorite dish to make is I like to make orecchiette with broccoli rabe and sausage. That's my favorite dish. But I like to bake as well, and I make a cheesecake a New Jersey style cheesecake that'll break your heart. It is perfection on a plate, and I will put my cheesecake up against anyone's. So, which I used to say when I was single, actually, but I meant it in a different way.
That sounds good. Does Jim cook too?
No, it's the worst. Oh my God, you can't let Jim boil water, and it's a good thing. So I don't let him in the kitchen. So, but it also means I have to do the cleanup too, because I'm one of those people when they say, "Oh, let me help you clear the table." It's like, don't, because if you wash my dishes, I will wash them again after you leave. So, I am an Italian market lady, okay, and that's what we do. Italian mothers is like, that's not going to be clean enough. Let me know. So yeah, so I don't touch my dishes and don't stack them because then the bottom gets dirty. I hate that. Just just eat everything and say it was good, and then go to the living room and have a cocktail.
Exactly.
And leave me alone, and I'll clean. But yeah, so there's that. But yeah, no, but we have fun. 28 years together, Jim and I have a really good time. And
Congratulations. Yeah.
and we're off tonight to see Elton John. So we have to, he's doing a talk about a new documentary. So I keep waiting for his head to poke in here going, Mary, get out of here. You got to go. It's like, so he's going to interrupt us, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Enjoy that. Before we wrap, what do you hope people are left with, Frank, when they read the book, whether they were around during the time period they experienced the disco days, or maybe they're learning about it for the first time. It was always something they heard about. They were on the cusp, or they were never involved with any of it. And this is going to bring this to life for them. What is this written for somebody in particular, or do you think everybody can get something from that very well written, critically acclaimed book?
Well, you really do hope that young people will read it and learn something new, and it won't just be people taking a walk down memory lane. But I hope it plays to both of those audiences, and it's written with both of them in mind. And that's why the dedication for the book is for those who remember to dance and those who dance to remember. And I didn't want to name one person, but I thought I like people who remember to dance in their own life. I like people who are enthusiastic in their everyday lives, and I also wanted to remember those of the community that we've lost, and whether it was by natural causes or it was the horrible scourge of AIDS, or just whether it was time or whether it was way too early. I want us to remember those people and the joy that they found on the dance floor, and also to let people know that diversity is something we really do have to keep paramount in our thoughts and work on it. And inclusion is really important, and that's what disco really was about. And so I want people to know it's not a new cause, but it's something we've got to keep fighting for. And then that, even though it doesn't say go vote, obviously the everything right now is go vote. If I say, would you like coffee? What I'm really saying is please go vote, and for the right person. And but it is that we are family, I guess, to quote a song. We were then and we are now, and I do think that a lot of us have more in common than we have that divides us. Not everybody necessarily. I don't have my head in the sand, But I do think that we have to get back to a live and let live world, and the best way to do that might be by having fun together on a dance floor. Wouldn't be the worst thing. So that's my hope, is they'll be inspired to dance and to learn stuff and to be enthusiastic. And if you're young, learn about what's old. And if you're old, don't think you get a pass. You've got to keep up with what's going on now, and not decide everything used to be better, because it didn't. It certainly didn't. And I just always say to young people, I say, if I have to know who Megan Thee Stallion is, then you have to know who Ella Fitzgerald is. But I also think to old people, you better know who Megan Thee Stallion is. Okay, even if you're not gonna, you don't have to buy all her records, but you should go, oh, I've heard of her. That's all you need to know. Okay, I've heard of her. Keep intellectual curiosity about you. I hope that, that's my message in life to everyone, is be intellectually curious. It's like, for God's sake, it's like, life is so much better when you live it. It's just get in there and muck around. And
that's it.
Learn new stuff and eat things and
that's right. Enjoy it, because life is short and life is precious. And absolutely.
And I'm not getting any thinner. Buy my book, okay?
Well, I didn't add that part in, but you say that, and you're dieter as well, like a serial dieter.
Oh, terrible. No, I think professional dieter. No, I had lost so much weight before COVID. I had lost almost 100 pounds, and it was so fun to have all these great clothes, and you could go in any store and everything fit, and it was great. And then during COVID, I thought, well, we're all going to die, so I guess there's no point in watching what I eat. So it was, let's make Mexican lasagna. This will be great. Can we add cheese to everything? Right. So, we had that entire year of power eating, and and I had a good time. I have to say, this is what relatives are like. One of my relatives, who I hadn't seen in years, saw me, and before I even opened the door at the restaurant we were meeting at, she said, "Oh, thank God, someone else hasn't gotten rid of their COVID weight." And I was like, and this is why I don't talk to my relatives. Thank you for nothing. So anyway,
but they have the check.
It's like, thanks, lady. Anyway, but I do.
Hey, lady.
I love her, sort of. Anyway, but anyway.
I know you probably. The car is probably idling in the driveway.
He'll kill me if I make us late for this screen.
Maureen in Arizona needs to know, or she won't be able to sleep. Cheesecake, do you deliver?
No, but I can post the recipe. I can do that.
And that's Maureen in Arizona, and Merlin in Canada, some of our faithful lovelies. What toppings on your cheesecake? Do you put toppings on it?
I'm not allowed to use that word, but no, but I was going to say, yeah, I like cherry. It's terrible. I like cherry pie filling. I know I like to buy like really good pie filling, but I do that. Or I will make, from scratch, I will do sometimes blueberries. So I do. There's a good blueberry pie recipe. Yeah. That's very easy. You only cook 1 cup, and then you add 3 cups of fresh berries in, and you sort of mix it together. I've done that as well. But my piece de resistance is I make an eggnog cheesecake at Christmas, and it is the greatest cheesecake.
I love eggnog. Yeah.
Ever.
Wow.
I already bought. Well, just to test it out to make sure it's good.
How quickly can we get to Studio City? Wait, he won't be home. He's going to be at Elton John.
No, I got to go to this. Elton is going to be at the screening.
You better get going. My friend, this really was fantastic. Really appreciate all the time. This was your welcome to the Jim Masters Show, Lovely family. We're going to keep the porch light on for you. You are welcome here anytime. You just want to chat. You have something new to share. You just want to stop by and say hi, spread the word about our series. As you see, it's warm, conversational, free-flowing, nothing scripted. I don't even call it an interview. I call it a good conversation, a lot of fun. And the viewers wish you well, and they say thank you very much for being with us. They're commenting throughout as well. And it was really great having you here. I know we were talking about doing this for a while, and I'm so glad because you're very busy right now. Congratulations on the book. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, they can get it everywhere books are available?
They can. Honestly, Amazon right now seems to be the cheapest, so knock yourself out.
There's his website too, Frank's website. Yeah.
Yes, frankdecaro.com. There should be a way to link that.
A link there.
If you go to my Instagram, there's a link there, definitely. It's Frank DeCaro Show. and there's a link in bio
Gotcha.
there, and so you can
Cool stuff.
check that out. But honestly, go to Amazon. It's beneficial to me if you do that. And my number, their listings are help for our publisher to see.
Exactly.
So let the Rizzoli people know you're out there and you're buying. And also, right now it's the cheapest. So unless I'm there signing the book, knock yourself out. Go
That's
onto
it.
Amazon. Support your local small independent retailers, but you can buy it on Amazon too.
But you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
My friend, thanks so much for stopping by the show. I really hope you enjoyed the time with me as I absolutely have with you, Frank.
Thank you. Remember, your disco needs you, and here we are. Okay.
And there it is. Oh, there's the big. It's a big book. Yes, that's right.
Oh, this will smack. You could give someone a real hit. Yeah, it's. Wait, there we go. All right, is she pretty? Her tush is hanging up. I'm covering it up. All right, there we go.
I have my copy. Yeah, and I love it.
Fantastic.
Thanks again. I hope the show met your expectations and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you, my friend.
5 stars, would recommend. Okay, thank you so very much.
You be well, Frank. Take care.
Thanks.
See you again. Frank DeCaro here, renowned journalist, actor, comedian, pop culture pundit, and author. Wow, was that not a cool conversation? We hit on a lot of different topics, and this was his first time here on our show. He's heading out for the screening with Elton, and that's going to be a lot of fun. There's the book, folks. Here is his website as well. Check out all the cool things he's working on and doing. Book available at Amazon, and you can also check out his Instagram. And again, you've seen him on a lot of great things. You've read a lot of his material. He also is a writer for Emmy magazine. We didn't talk about that, but he does writing with Emmy magazine as well. He loves what he does. He's full of vim and vigor and passion. And it was really a great conversation. So there's the book, folks. Check it out. The official title, Disco, Music, Movies, and Mania Under the Mirror Ball. Frank DeCaro here on the show, and a real pleasure to have him here. Was he a hoot or what? A hoot and a holler. We appreciate you being with us as well. If you'd like to see this episode again, it's archived now on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, where there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes with some of your favorite celebrity friends and guests stopping by Lovely Hall and JMS. Don't forget to give this episode a thumbs up, click that like icon, that sort of like button there, the thumbs up. Share this on your social media. Drop a comment in the comments section below this episode. We would love that. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And if this was your first time watching our series, our entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series, we welcome you to the Jim Masters Show live series. A really cool conversation talking about disco and a lot of other things. Again, you may remember him from all the other things he's done in his career and television and so much more. And we appreciate him stopping by. Busy night for him, busy time for him because, the book is out. So he's appearing here, there, and everywhere. So we're so happy that Frank got a chance to stop by our show and share some JMS conversation and levity with us as well. And we're always happy when you stop by our show as well. Thanks everybody for your great comments coming in from Kathleen in New York and Jane watching in Sweden as well. Thank you very much. And Crystal watching in Connecticut. Thank you very much, Crystal. And good stuff. You guys are great. Crystal, you are very welcome. Thank you for another fantastic show, Jim. The pleasure is all mine. Hey, gang, I just want to show you something real quick. That there is an episode that we did that you might not have seen that is available for viewing right now, and it is really cool. If you are a fan of the iconic series Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, well, check this out. You can see it on our YouTube channel right now. Twilight Zone is celebrating its 65th anniversary, 65 years ago. That's hard to believe, huh? But yeah. Rod Serling would be like 100. We had on the show Arlen Schumer. He's an extraordinary pop culture historian, author, illustrator, Twilight Zone scholar. He is incredible. And we have a phenomenal conversation as we celebrate and remember Twilight Zone. And you would love this if you didn't get a chance to see that episode. We just uploaded it just about 2-3 hours ago, at the time of this show. So check that out. That is something really special. That is a bonus episode as the Jim Masters Show celebrates the 65th anniversary of Twilight Zone. Again, that episode is available on our YouTube channel right now. It's fresh, it's new. Check it out. I think you'll love it. And peruse some of those other great episodes we have. There's hundreds of them, all the way back from the very beginning when we first started the show and just talking to cameras, saying hello, wearing the hats, bringing out the George Burns and the genie bottle, and just conversing with our viewers, whoever they may be from around the world. And now the show has grown into this coveted monster that it is, and we love every second of it. But spread the word. It does help when you spread the word about our show. Thank you, Merlin in Ontario, Canada, and Sherry in Kansas, USA, and everybody else watching. Love having you here. So this is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, come see us again. One more time, we thank Frank for joining us here. Renowned journalist, actor, comedian, pop culture pundit, author extraordinaire here on JMS, the Jim Masters Show. He's off. He's skedaddled off to see Elton John at the screening. How cool is that? I should have taken this show to Studio City, California, and the whole show and be going to the screening with Jim and Frank and Elton. That would be kind of nice. All right, guys. Yeah, maybe we'll have to bring George Burns back out if I can find where he is. We've done a lot of movement and remodeling of our set. He's around here somewhere, doing a Rip Van Winkle sleep, I think. You guys are the best. I am your host, Jim Masters, and we always love having you here. So come by and see us again. I'll be right here in the host chair in Levity Hall waiting for you. Spread the word about our show. Takes a village, and yeah, lots more coming up. So many great guests working really hard behind the scenes to put all these shows together for you and you and you and you. And we love doing it. So for all of us here, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, love one another, take care of one another. And don't forget to do the very same for yourself. As we always say, don't forget to relax, breathe, hang in there. Come see us when you need a pick-me-up or want to be entertained. Check out some of our great guests and just say hi. And we'll see you on the next one, okay? Be well, everybody. And thanks for stopping by the Jim Masters Show. Cheers.